Us now is Michael Liederman, who will be talking about some of these stories. Michael, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Tia and Gabby. I'm glad to be here.
You know, Michael, there's some stories that really, I would say, kind of stunned our community, and one of them being the federal agents that jumped out of these unmarked vans. They were outside of a Bronzeville shelter. This happened yesterday, and they detained 4 people. This is part of Bright Star Church's really initiative to, be in the community, help the community. What can you tell us about what unfolded there?
Yes, so Wednesday morning, people, as people do at shelters, people can just be kind of hanging out outside of a shelter, and around 30 agents pulled up in multiple SUVs and vans and detained 4 people outside of Bright Star Shelter. And keep in mind, this is a shelter that started back in 2023 as a part of the migrant crisis and has since transitioned to being a combined shelter. And this really has struck a lot of fear in people and showing how Operation Midway Blitz has expanded. In the past couple of days, we've seen the South Shore raids, to this raid, to even on the West Side, a lot of ICE activity going beyond what we initially expected. And when we think about just the vulnerability of the homeless population and people who are staying at these shelters, so much trauma already associated with institutions, and then to have this happen also just further alienates a lot of people, and being able to trust, even when they're at a shelter, that they can just be comfortable chilling outside.
Michael, I do want to ask you a quick follow-up, and I don't know if you guys are covering this story, but it is trending online right now, and it shows an ICE agent, and several agents, in fact, that had jumped out of a vehicle. I don't know if you've seen this, and it looks like they have a gentleman who appears to be black. We don't really know, his ethnicity overall, but that's what it appears to be, kind of like in a chokehold. Have you seen that video, and is this something that Block Club Chicago is working on? Apparently this happened yesterday as well.
Yes, I've seen it. I saw the tribe post a video of this, and it's alarming. And it's something that, you can even hear in the background, people having that commentary of, but he's black, why is he being detained? And the questions of what are ICE's true intentions with Operation Midway Blitz, seeing it expand like this. And funny enough, right before I came on, I got some information from the Block Club editors, and I'm getting on this as soon as we get off air. So
okay.
We'll hopefully have something up soon as well.
Okay, and hopefully we'll be able to, look at some of your reporting and maybe even cover some of that.
Yeah, so. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, and seeing situations like this, it's really, really alarming, makes us feel almost sick to our stomach, at least some of us. One thing that I'm hearing out in the field, I was able to visit with the one family, the tamale vendor over on the west side, who was taken by federal agents, and they said, they're really only targeting us, people with brown skin, but it's more than that, right? They said there's more than that. There is, white people maybe from Ireland, black people coming from Africa, so on and so forth. So have you been hearing the same thing? It seems like they're really targeting just Hispanic people.
Or people based on their skin tone, because in some cases you can be a brown person, not be a dark-skinned, person, but you could be a black person.
Right. And it's definitely coming down to appearances, as things seem to be within Operation Midway Blitz. And for a long time, with how things have been earlier this month and leading up to now, that it was solely people of a Hispanic background that were being targeted and detained, when thinking about a lot of people who are migrants or undocumented citizens. But as we just mentioned, Tia, with the alarming video coming out of the west side, out of Garfield Park, of a black man being detained. And now it leads to further questions of what is the true intention of Operation Midway Blitz. Is it, as it's been described, to take on undocumented citizens and wanting to really enforce immigration and border patrol in that way, versus now taking what appears to be African Americans? It begs the question of, is there something more going on? And like you said, Gabby, with a lot of Operation Midway Blitz, there's so many internalized and stigmatized things being promoted when thinking about xenophobia. And when it comes to migrants, a lot in America of what we view as an undocumented citizen is typically someone who is Hispanic. But you have immigrants who are from Europe, who are from the Middle East, and who are from Asia that fall in as immigrants and are considered immigrants. But the fear that is very much rampant among our communities is largely with the Hispanic population. And now with this incident happening on the West Side, now expanding to the Black and African populations. And so for people who are African or African American, it begs the question of, even if you're here lawfully, will ICE potentially see you and look to detain you or question you on your immigration status?
We'll be watching to see what happens here.
You know, another situation that I know you guys are talking about, a Chicago family still reeling after federal agents detained their father while he was on work trip. This was back in September. We've been following it too. You know, now they're asking still to, of course, bring him home, but also for financial support because they need a roof over their head. What have you heard about that story?
So yes, this is someone who, for the sake of their identity, we're referring to as Jose, who was detained on Chicago's Skyway. And this is an immigrant from Ecuador who fled to Chicago really to avoid a lot of drug cartel activity. And he had built a life for himself, started a food delivery company, and was doing a delivery when he was detained by ICE. And so his family has really been put in this situation, as you said, where you have a man who's making money for his family and now is detained. He is unable to provide for his family. His family's family friend has made a GoFundMe, and ultimately they're trying to figure out what to do now. And as of right now, it's around $7,500 out of a $10,000 goal. Jose is detained in Broadview. He's able to make calls occasionally to the family, but those costs around $50, $52 a call. And it's really, the costs are adding up. And local elected officials such as Alderman Byron and Centro Lopez are advocating for things to change so that citizens don't have to deal with this, where you can have someone who is a crucial member of your family suddenly disappear. And as we've seen when it comes to the Alligator Alcatraz and other centers around America, that they can shut down and people ultimately get lost in the system.
Michael, I got to ask you a follow-up to that because when you said $50+, we both said, what? Wow, because that sounds unbelievable. If you have a family member detained at, for example, Cook County Jail, or even by the Illinois Department of Corrections, that call is not $50 for one call. So my question is has there been any digging into that? Is that for the purpose of people not being able to call? Because at that point, I mean, everything in your life is on hold, financially speaking and everything else. So is the intent, the thought behind that call being that expensive for people not being able to make the call?
Right. And it does beg the question of what are they trying to do when it comes to these costs? And like I said, this is a barrier. And when you think about the justice system, our justice system is founded on fairness. And I think a lot throughout just how things have developed, that idea of fairness has become perverted. And we've seen when it comes to the issue of cash bond in Illinois and other barriers for a lot of people socioeconomically being removed, having a $50 call simply to speak to a family member is a large barrier for a lot of people to even figure out what's next when you can't even have that communication. And then on top of that, when it comes to the Broadview Center specifically, so much is uncertain of what the conditions are like inside. From Jose's wife, who we're referring to as Stephanie, there's more than 200 people there sleeping on the floor, barely in any type of conditions, and no windows. And this is not standardized. And this begs the question of how is the Department of Justice and the Department of Corrections, what department is involved in figuring out how these centers are even supposed to be set up to have and afford those basic human rights that we have when it comes to any form of detainment in lieu of people who have not been convicted of anything. The same way when people go to jail or any type of holding as they await a judgment, there still should be some decency in that.
Yeah. Michael Liptrot, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We know that block party is happening this Saturday too, so we'll keep that in mind. Thank you again. We could talk to you probably for hours on some of the stuff that you're covering. Thanks for joining us.